On November 10, 1923, Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb embarked on a fateful journey that would lead to one of the most infamous crimes in American history. The events that unfolded that day would not only shock the nation but also raise profound questions about the nature of crime, punishment, and human psychology. The day started innocuously enough, with Leopold and Loeb deciding to travel from Chicago to the University of Michigan. Their initial intent was to break into Loeb's former fraternity house, a seemingly harmless and mischievous act. However, their plans took a darker turn as they set out on their journey. Armed with a typewriter, a few watches, penknives, and around $80 in loose change, the young men made their way towards Michigan. Along the way, Leopold became increasingly agitated, feeling that the effort they had put into the robbery was disproportionate to the meager payoff they had obtained. This discontent would set the stage for what would come next. As they continued their journey through the quiet country roads towards Chicago, Loeb broached the topic of committing the perfect crime. It was a conversation that would plant the seeds of a heinous act that would shock the world. Their initial attempts at crime during their trip, breaking into homes and starting fires, went unnoticed by the media, failing to fulfill Loeb's desire for notoriety. It was then that Loeb conceived a plan that would capture the attention of the entire nation: an abduction and homicide of a child. The two young men meticulously plotted their crime over the winter months, selecting a child they knew had a wealthy father who would be willing to pay a substantial ransom. In May, they put their plan into action, kidnapping Bobby Franks, a 14-year-old boy. What followed was a brutal and senseless act of violence. Leopold and Loeb beat Bobby's skull with a chisel and jammed a rag down his throat, ultimately ending his young life. The callousness and cruelty of their actions were staggering, driven by a twisted desire for notoriety and thrill-seeking. After committing the horrific crime, the duo attempted to cover their tracks by dropping a ransom letter into a postbox. However, their carefully laid plans unraveled quickly. The next day, a passerby discovered Bobby Franks' lifeless body, setting off a chain of events that would lead to the capture of Leopold and Loeb. The police, aided by forensic evidence and witness accounts, swiftly traced Leopold and Loeb back to the crime scene. One crucial piece of evidence was the eyeglasses that Leopold had dropped near Bobby Franks' body, a detail that would prove instrumental in their eventual apprehension. Facing mounting pressure and overwhelming evidence, Leopold and Loeb confessed to the state's attorney just 10 days after committing the heinous crime. Their confession revealed the chilling truth, that they had killed Bobby Franks not out of necessity or revenge, but simply for the thrill of it. At the time of the murder, both Leopold and Loeb were in their late teens, 18 and 19 years old respectively. Their youth and privilege only added to the shock and disbelief surrounding the case. The nation grappled with how two seemingly intelligent and privileged young men could commit such a heinous act without remorse or empathy. In a highly publicized trial, Leopold and Loeb were sentenced to 99 years in prison for their crime. The case captivated the public imagination, sparking debates about crime, punishment, and the psychological motivations behind such senseless violence. The Leopold and Loeb case remains a chilling reminder of the darkest depths of human nature and the devastating consequences of unchecked hubris and moral decay. It serves as a cautionary tale, prompting us to reflect on the complexities of crime, justice, and the fragility of innocence in a world fraught with darkness and despair. A few years ago, my boss embarked on a holiday to Spain, looking forward to a couple of weeks of relaxation and a break from the daily grind. Little did he know that this vacation would become a harrowing experience etched into his memory forever. Midway through his holiday, he received a phone call that shattered his world. It was the police, delivering the devastating news that his sister had perished in a fire in her apartment. Shock, disbelief, and grief washed over him as he tried to comprehend the sudden loss of a beloved family member. Without hesitation, he cut short his holiday and rushed back home, his mind swirling with unanswered questions and emotions too raw to process. Arriving home, he was met with the grim reality of dealing with the police, funeral arrangements, and the overwhelming sorrow of losing someone dear. His employers, recognizing the magnitude of his loss, urged him to take time off to grieve and heal. Grateful for their understanding, he retreated into solitude, grappling with waves of grief and the haunting memories of his sister's tragic demise. Weeks passed, and the weight of sorrow lingered, casting a shadow over his return to work. Yet, life beckoned, and he eventually gathered the strength to step back into the familiar routine of the office. It was a Monday morning when he re-entered the workspace, greeted by sympathetic glances and heartfelt condolences from colleagues. Sitting in the comfort of the coffee room, surrounded by supportive faces, he poured out his heart, sharing memories of his sister and the pain of losing her in such a horrific manner. His co-workers listened attentively, offering words of solace and understanding in those moments of shared grief. After a while, he excused himself from the gathering, ready to face the tasks awaiting him at his desk. Walking into his office, he felt a mix of apprehension and determination. Sitting down, he powered up his computer, the familiar hum of technology a stark contrast to the turmoil within. With a heavy heart, he checked his voicemail, half expecting mundane messages or work-related updates. What happened next defied all expectations and plunged him into a whirlpool of shock and horror. The first message that played was his sister's voice, filled with desperation and fear, crying out for help as flames engulfed her surroundings. "Help me, I'm trapped, I can't breathe." Her words echoed hauntingly in the silence of the office, a chilling reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded. In that moment, time seemed to stand still. The raw anguish of hearing her final pleas pierced through his soul, reopening wounds that had barely begun to heal. The recording captured the terror of those last moments, a cruel twist of fate that etched indelible scars on his psyche. The impact was profound, leaving him shaken to the core. The boundary between reality and nightmare blurred as he grappled with the surreal experience of hearing his sister's voice from beyond the grave. It was a stark reminder of the fragility of life, the unpredictability of fate, and the enduring pain of loss. For days afterward, he struggled to shake off the haunting echo of that voicemail. Sleep became elusive, haunted by visions of flames and desperate cries for help. The trauma of that moment seeped into every aspect of his life, casting a shadow over even the simplest of tasks. Support from loved ones and counseling sessions offered some respite, providing a safe space to process the trauma and navigate the complex emotions that surfaced. Gradually, the sharp edges of grief began to soften, replaced by a bittersweet ache of memories cherished and moments lost. Time, they say, is a great healer. And indeed, with time, the wounds began to heal, though the scars remained as a testament to the indomitable spirit that carries on in the face of adversity. The experience left an indelible mark on my boss, shaping his perspective on life, loss, and the preciousness of every moment. It served as a poignant reminder to cherish loved ones, to live fully in the present, and to find strength in the face of unimaginable challenges. As I reflect on this story, it serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the resilience of the human spirit. In moments of darkness, we find glimpses of light, and in the depths of grief, we discover the power of compassion and solidarity. The voicemail, haunting as it was, also carried a message of love, a sister's plea for help, a reminder of the bond that transcends life and death. It's a story that lingers in the mind, a testament to the complexities of loss and the enduring power of memory. In sharing this story, I hope to honor not just the memory of my boss's sister, but also the journey of healing and resilience that followed. It's a reminder that amidst life's darkest moments, there is still hope, love, and the strength to carry on. During the late 1800s, the city of Marrakesh was gripped by fear and horror as a string of brutal homicides shocked the community. The perpetrator behind these heinous crimes was Haj Mohammed Mesfioui, a Moroccan shoemaker and trader who would later be monikered as the Marrakesh Arch Killer. Mesfioui's modus operandi was both calculated and sinister. He would lure affluent women to his home under the guise of hosting dinner parties. Once his victims were relaxed and unsuspecting, Mesfioui would drug them, rendering them unconscious. In their vulnerable state, he would then proceed to decapitate them with a dagger while they slept. The depravity of Mesfioui's actions extended beyond mere murder. He would rob his victims of their possessions and money before burying their mutilated remains. Authorities in Morocco were horrified when they discovered the extent of Mesfioui's crimes. The remains of 20 individuals were found in a deep trench beneath his store, while another 16 were located in the garden outside. When confronted, Mesfioui admitted that his motivations for these gruesome killings were rooted in greed. Despite the modest sums he obtained from his victims, Mesfioui's insatiable desire for wealth drove him to commit unspeakable acts of violence. In 1906, the reign of terror orchestrated by Mesfui came to an end when he was finally apprehended by authorities. The public outcry and outrage surrounding his crimes were so intense that initial calls for his punishment included crucifixion. However, this sentence was later altered to beheading in response to the widespread condemnation of such a barbaric form of execution. Mesfui's fate was one of prolonged suffering and agony. In an attempt to inflict a fitting punishment for his heinous crimes, it was decided that he should endure a prolonged period of torment. For 4 weeks, Mesfui was subjected to a daily ritual of being carried from his cell to the market square, where he would be publicly whipped 10 times with a rod made of prickly acacia. The culmination of Mesfui's punishment came on June 11, 1906, when he was walled up alive in the Marrakesh Marketplace Bazaar. The intention was for him to suffer a slow and excruciating death, serving as a deterrent to others who might consider following in his footsteps. Despite the severity of his punishment, Mesfui's demise did not bring closure to the community. Many people in the crowd expressed their anger and frustration that he had perished too quickly, believing that he had escaped the full extent of the suffering he deserved for his atrocities. The story of Haj Mohammed Mesfui, the Marrakesh arch-killer, serves as a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity and the quest for justice in the face of unimaginable horror.